takes us actually to the question, what is your perception of what is happening to Palestinians and Palestinian society today, and what is the dynamic of what is happening in Palestine between the Jewish immigrants who came to Palestine relatively recently and the indigenous Palestinians. What is your understanding of the process that is actually taking place now in Palestine?
Well, I think only one has to understand that the problems of the world, or the wars of the world, are a result of land. Who controls the land, who owns the land, who are the rightful descendants of the land. And many of the policies and the taking of those lands, one way or the other, I think is the way the systems have operated. And unfortunately for the Palestinian people, it has been through, a colonial state, Israel, which I think is the same as the United States. There's no difference. They're the same, the way I understand it, and they're the same as colonization, the way I understand colonization too. Somewhere in this world, every country in this world has some form of colonial regime or colonialism going on in regards to indigenous peoples. And I think as far as the Palestinian people is a good example of the extremes that this society has evolved into, to take those lands and to steal the history and to steal the destiny of people for its own purpose.
Anything more that you would like to add?
Well, I just want to, for our American Indian movement, particularly the younger people of our movements, begin to educate themselves and begin to relearn history, the struggle of history, particularly liberation of our peoples, not only in the Americas but around the world, because the time is now. We have to begin to stand up. The American Indian movement in the beginning forged this struggle to where we're at today, and so we need to pick up where many of our leaders have left off, and a lot of them are left us. Even people like Vernon Belfort, people like Floyd Red Crow Westerman, many of our spiritual traditional people that started this struggle. And today I like to also refer to the American Indian movement as laying the foundation of what we have indigenous struggles around the world today, because it was the American Indian movement that stood up against the federal government. And as a result of that, the world seen through how the United States was treating American Indians or Indians in its own country. And it was with that education and reaching out to many of our brothers and sisters throughout, indigenous brothers and sisters around the world, over 300 million of them today, has eventually, I guess you could say, come to some understanding and forging a document called the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Many people forget that as indigenous peoples we have an existence here too today within the United Nations system as well. Not that the United Nations is going to serve or help us in some way, but it can help us educate countries and other people in the world what our situation is. I'd also like to look at those rights as being not necessarily political, civil rights or human rights. No, we're talking about our natural rights today. And that our way of life, our philosophy of life, is just as valid as any other ideology and way of life in the world today, but it's not recognized. So one part of our struggle is recognition of those rights, recognition of us as a people. We're the only indigenous peoples, or the only peoples in the world that have to have a declaration, saying that we too are human beings.
Actually, I've got one more question. This is the flotilla to Gaza that you're planning to participate in with the Free Palestine movement. Is not just an ordinary demonstration. because we know that last year 9 of the people who participated in this lost their lives, and many more were seriously wounded as a result of this. Don't you have some concerns about why do you feel strongly enough to want to take these risks?
Well, when we deal with life and death, who are these people to take life? What gives them a right to take life? And as far as I myself here, I'm going and show of support, solidarity in a form of prayer. And I'm hoping that prayer and that strength of prayer will also carry me beyond those threats. Of course, that's the sacrifices sometimes some of us have to look at. You know, if we're put in that situation, and unfortunately, I think American Union has always been in that situation, and many of its actions and occupations and resistance, and it's just a continuation of that resistance. Today, we see ourselves as stepping up, you know, for the Palestinian people as Indian nations, and asserting our voice and asserting our concerns. So I think that's just as strong as having to be there and fight in other ways, you know, whether it's armed struggle or show of solidarity. I mean, this is the ultimate of putting your lives on the line in a peaceful way. And who else could, as Indian people, understand peace more than the rest of the world? I always felt that Indian people would teach the world